how they're going to come together, and we're in that process now. And then the optimism, I think, just comes from the fact, again, we've got a roster. I think we're got a good amount of veterans. We've lost some real key veterans over the last couple of years, but a good group of veterans right now, and a strong group of guys in the middle group maybe that haven't played a lot, but I think are ready to take that next step. And then, you always got the younger guys as well. So, it's a fluid time right now, fluid competition going on during camp, like you'd expect, and it's just kind of fun to watch it and see how it's all going to pull together. So, and that really is, the nature of preseason. That's the beauty of it. It's when you're working through the bumps, working through the ups and downs that come with, pretty competitive practices, and see how things go. So we're about 40% through right now, and like every year, it's demanding on the players physically, but demanding on them mentally, and I think emotionally as well. We've had good weather up until today. Got a little warm. That's good. And, I think it's going to be that way here for a while, so that's great. But every group out there is kind of a different study, if you will. Starts with quarterback, so just kind of highlight that one. In terms of the newness, we've got 3 guys that are relatively new to the program, getting all the reps right now, basically, and 2 of those guys weren't even here in the spring. So Mark was here in the spring, but wasn't practicing in the spring, so I'll rephrase that. So it's just, it's good to see how they're fitting in, and then some other groups are a little bit more veteran, but interesting to see how they're working. And I think, so again, so far so good with that. Just kind of go there, and to some extent, talking about the quarterbacks, Jimmy Sullivan's in the same boat. He was here last spring, but, should have been in high school, and, it was going 100 miles an hour, 120 miles an hour for him. So fun for things to slow down for him as well. But, bottom line is this, like every position right now, we're looking at them all. And just curious to see how they're going to evolve, and there's, a lot of different stories there. And bottom line is, it's all about how things come together here over the next 3+ weeks. And with this team, I think it's going to be a fluid process, probably even into the season. So that's certainly not a bad thing. We've got several points of emphasis you're always trying to emphasize in camp, but I think the single biggest thing, and I'm sure we're not unique in this, but really to do anything difficult to win in this conference, it's not easy. Do anything difficult, it really requires good focus on things that are important and when they need to be there. And our guys are in college, they're going to school, they've got social lives, they play football, so they've all got a lot going on. Right now, this is a pure time where we've got them pretty much a captive audience. So them learning how to really focus on what's important, that's important. And then the other contingent, they've always been college athletes and college students, but the biggest difference now is just this new era, with the free agency, salary cap, all that stuff, revenue sharing. It's a little bit different world, and it takes a little different level of maturity, I think, for everybody to handle that. And, so it's one more challenge, but that's really, as much as anything, the biggest, I think, challenge out there. And part of our job as coaches is to try to help those guys filter through stuff that's not important to really be able to focus on what does count. So that's kind of, an ongoing process as well. Then last but not least, just touch on real quickly, I know you guys probably got releases on this, but a couple staff things that have happened over the last 2 months or so. Paul Federici has retired. I just want to start out by having had a chance to publicly acknowledge him and thank him for all the contributions he's made in 2+ decades here. Paul came here as our head trainer 20-some years ago and did an unbelievably great job at that, in that role. And the only bad thing about him moving to operations was, you lose a really good guy in the medical department. Luckily, we've had really good people, think about Russ and people like that taking over for him, Cammy. So, but Paul's made a lot of certainly valuable contributions. Did a great job in a really challenging role, if you will. And so certainly want to wish him and Teddy all the best. They're down in Arizona. Somebody told me yesterday it's hotter there than we didn't even dream about being here. So hope he likes hot weather. Ben Hansen will take his role. Ben will be an assistant AD, director of ops for us moving forward. Ben's been with us over 10 years. Paul's done a great job mentoring him, and Ben is an outstanding mentee. He's been qualified to probably have that job for years now. Fortunately, he's stuck with us, and so it's been really kind of a seamless transition. Again, I thank Paul for helping facilitate that, and Ben's already doing a great job. Ireland Hosteller is going to move over from recruiting, along with Austin Showalter, who's been the quality control guy, GA quality control guy. They're going to move into operations and work primarily in that area. Austin will still do special projects for me and football-related work that way, still dabbling in that, but I think that gives us a real strong department there. And then the other probably noteworthy thing at this point, Jason Manson has transitioned into football full-time. So he's one of the analysts on the offensive side, gives him a chance to really immerse himself in that. Sam Brinks, who's been his assistant, is going to move up into the director of ops role, or player development, I'm sorry. And then Noah Shannon is back with us. He was going to be a GA or a student assistant, and you know, all the titles are different now because of the new rules. But long story short, Noah's going to fill Sam's role in player development, so he and Sam will pair up just like Jason and Jason and Sam did previously. And then Noah's also going to work in the football realm of things, so it's his first year in you know, this side of the ball instead of being a player. And I'm not sure he knows exactly where he wants to go professionally. This is going to be a good opportunity to see both sides and kind of develop what he wants, or an idea of what he wants to do as he moves forward. So feel really good about that. And then the last thing, just in the next week or two, you know, our recruiting department under Tyler Barnes, it's been reshaped a little bit and reconfigured, and we're filling a void, obviously, with Arlen moving over. We lost a really quality person there, but I think we're really close to making an announcement there, and feel really good about the way things have shaped up. So I think we're in good shape there. And just, you know, briefly again, 40% into it. It's been a positive start. The guys are doing a good job. They're attentive, working hard, doing a good job in meetings and, you know, all those types of things. So, yeah, we're hardly halfway there, but it'll be good for them tomorrow to be out there in the stadium. Not that it's going to be packed or anything like that. For some of the younger guys especially, that'll be a big deal for them. And you know, it's just good to change up things in camp a little bit every now and then. And then beyond that, just the Kids Day concept. I think we're in year 11, 12, 13, something like that. It's a win-win situation. Again, I'm glad I'm not on the judging panel who has to pick out who the 12 captains are. I hate that job. I wouldn't want to be nameless, like NCAA people, the way they make their decisions. But anyway, so it's just a tough job. But what a great way to celebrate. A lot of really good stories and tremendous people. So we'll look forward to that. The seniors will have a chance to spend time with them in the weight room and swarm with them out on the field. So it's all good. And it's kind of like the way of just something to make you feel good about. So a lot of work to do, obviously 3 weeks out, but you know, just happy to be working at it. So I'll throw it out for questions.
Start with Chad on the far right.
Chad, this goes one register, right? Last year, Kids Day, this time of year, quarterback play was looking pretty rough. You guys said that was pretty indicative of how Cade and others have played. I guess where do you feel like Mark, how much further along do you feel like the passing game is? Is Mark where you want him to be? And then the other two guys, I assume, are around the intensity you're seeing with
Yep.
the reps.
Yep.
And
Yeah, so it's those three guys plus Sullivan are like the 1, 2, 3, 4. Jackson's been fighting an illness and kind of an unusual one. You think you've seen everything, you never have. 27 years into it, first time he's got it's a hernia that's affected his appetite, and it's just I feel really bad for him. I struggling to eat and struggling to hold his weight, so it's going to be a long road, but they're going to get it cleared up and all that type of thing. But that's kind of taking him out of the equation for a little bit. But no, it's been good, and you know, I mean, to me, ever since Spencer got hurt out there in November 22, it's been a bumpy road. You know, nobody's fault, just the way it's been. And that's not the only spot. You know, it's more than you know, it's everything combined, quite frankly. But as I said last year at this time, you know, my experience is if we have a good offensive line here, good quarterback play, we've got a chance. And I think the good news is I think we have a chance to have both those things, and beyond that, I think our supporting cast is a little bit better balanced and more experienced than it's been. The receivers, good mix of old and young, kind of like our whole team, but they're probably a good illustration of that, and most importantly, they've been practicing pretty well. So, yeah, we're not there yet, but you're starting to see some signs. 2 nights ago, saw some things that were really encouraging. It was Wednesday night, and then this morning, a couple plays where, you know, hey, maybe we can make some tough plays on third down, those kinds of things. And it's just things that keep drives going, and that's how you score points, all those types of things. So we're not there yet, but at least I think we're moving in the right direction.
David Eichel, HawkeyeInsider.com. Kirk, I mean, how's Brian Allen been progressing since over the course of summer? And I guess where would you kind of assess where the defensive line is right now, and the kind of depth that you kind of see them having?
The first guy you mentioned was
Brian Allen.
Yeah, Brian's doing well. You know, he's like Mark. He couldn't do anything in the spring, so you know he's working through that. That's one thing we were talking about this, at all levels, a pro player who's played, 10 years successfully, that type of thing, they can miss some time typically and come back and go, but even the best players, like if they don't practice, it's not the same. So you can imagine anybody in college, and that's Mark and Brian too, their challenge is not being out there in the spring. It does make a difference, just in terms of being, working at it. His attitude's been great, he's been out there every day, fully healthy. So he's getting there, and I like the competition we're seeing on the defensive line. Unfortunately, Pitt's not working, Jeremiah still out, he's probably a couple of weeks away from being back, but it's giving other guys an opportunity to work, both Pace and Hawthorne are doing a good job in there, and Will's done a good job, so Hubert. Those guys are competing, they're improving, and I think we'll be okay there, but we're not there yet.
Hey, Kirk, LA Club Hawkeye Insider, 24/7 Sports. I know you already asked about Mark, but a lot of the conversation over the last few months has been that you've seen who he is as a person, but haven't been able to see him take live reps yet. Because what are your impressions so far of him specifically?
Well, you can ask him about his first day. He was 6 out of 9. That's the good news. I won't say how that 6 got broken down. I'll let him do that. But again, he made some throws like, oh, really? And but that again, that's his first day. He hadn't thrown with the team. And the improvement from day 1 to day 9 is just not surprising, but it's just I think we're starting to see him in a comfort zone, operating the way you like to, and pulling the ball down. I mean, what they tell you, I've seen him pull the ball down and run, which is not unusual for quarterbacks. Some can't do it, but he can run and keep his eyes down the field. That's a good trait, and he's demonstrated he can do that. So yeah, he looks more comfortable with each day, and everybody around him is more comfortable, and he acts like a veteran guy, and that's it's something you can't hand to anybody, is that experience. So doing a good job there, and I think I mentioned at the Big Ten media deal, one thing we did get to see this summer, because he really couldn't do anything competitive in the spring, we did get to see him in Ray times a lot of the stuff we do, some certain timings and certain moving things, 10 yards, jumping, shuttles, things like that, and he's a sneakily good athlete. Like, he really tested out very well in all the groups, of all the guys in his group, his classification, if you will. So, that's a good thing to have if you're a quarterback. The most important thing is, can you pull the team together, lead them, and get up there and get the ball snapped and then do something productively. He's coming along really well, and Hank is doing the same thing. You can tell Hank's been out there in the spring, so he's moving along pretty good too. And Jeremy's bringing up the rear there with that group.
Scott from left.
Scott Ackerman with The Athletic. Kirk, your offensive line was one of the sneakier good offensive lines in the country last year. You averaged almost 200 yards a game rushing, only cut your sacks down to 16 last year. But you lost a couple guys to the draft. And what is, right now, how do you feel about your offensive line? Where does the left tackle competition stand? Because you brought in a Division II All-American.
I'll go backwards in order, just wide open, the tackle spot and the guard spot. And we're hoping to see good competition in August. You never know how it's going to go, but compared to April, to me, it's a much healthier competition, seeing the guys grow. And that's one of the great things about college football, is just the changes. And I'll give you a quick, deviate for 1 second, like, this revenue share stuff. And Scott Pilley was in here, I think, last week or this past week. You guys knew that, but one big difference between the NFL and here, like in the NFL, you evaluate your team whenever your season ends, either in January or February, and that's pretty much how it is until you start the new season. In college, our guys change every period, in my opinion at least. In the winter program, the spring ball, there's 2 evaluations, and you go through the summer. And it's not overly telling, but it tells you something. And then ultimately, is it going to carry over to the field in August when you're actually playing football, not training? But we're seeing these guys really grow, and it's kind of the way it's been in the past. Like, our guys get better as they stay in the program and work if they're doing the right things. And I think we're seeing that with both the two main contestants are Trevor and Jack, and both those guys are way better than they were in December, and way better than they were, in my opinion, in April. They're not there yet, but they're there. And then Bryce is a newcomer, and talked about like the 2 quarterbacks getting out there, especially Jeremy not being here in the spring. Bryce wasn't either, so he's a little slow off the ball, a little you know, because he's thinking right now, but he's trying his ass off, and he's got some good tools. So it's going to be a good, healthy competition, I think, and seeing some good things in the interior as well. You know, watching some guys grow there. So we're not there yet, but I think we have the opportunity to, you know, fill two big holes with Connor and Mason leaving. You know, those are big losses for us. But yeah, right now I'm, you know, semi-optimistic, but we're not there yet.
Corey in the middle.
Coach, I think a natural segue from offensive line to receiver, the Big Ten Media Days, you kind of compared it to that group to where the offensive line was a year ago with the progression. Has that continued into fall camp? What's the pecking order at the top? And is Jared Bowie, is he healthy right now?
Yeah, he actually coincidentally just got like really cleared. He's been practicing but limited what he can do. He's had a fracture on his arm, but officially got cleared, I guess, 2 days ago. So he's progressing. I think we got 4 seniors right now. It's kind of snuck up on us, but although Weegin's debating this, I think he's going to play till he's 30. He's trying to be a junior, but anyway, I'd be okay with that. But we got, they're a good group right now. The older guys are doing a good job, and then we got younger guys coming up the ladder. So it's kind of too close to call right now. But they're all doing some good things, and we'll see what it looks like over 3 weeks. And you know, we're really not going to make too many big judgments until at least, you know, you start game prepping a little bit. Then you got to kind of start squeezing it down. But it's good, healthy competition, and that's encouraging.
Dan in the front.
Coach Ferentz, Dan Stacy, Sportscast Media, Mediapolis News. We got a really good field goal kicker coming back, and that's real important. Drew Stevens, he's up for the Groseville Award. Have you talked to him about that, or has he talked to you about that? Do you feel, what's your feelings on that? And who's your number 1 running back going to be, you think, right now? How's the running back going to be?
No idea on that last one. That's a good thing. I think the group's all working well, and they're doing a good job. Yeah, so, and then, you know, regarding all these awards, and you know, Matt puts releases out, and they end up on my desk, and I look at them and throw them in the recycle thing as fast as I can, because with all due respect, I mean, you know, it's like preseason rankings. Really nothing matters right now, other than acknowledging where it is pertinent, acknowledging somebody who does have a resume, who's done something. And Drew, I think Drew's a great story. I mean, just all you got to do is look back the last 2 Novembers, and you know, 2 years ago he kicks 2 balls out of bounds on kickoffs in our last game, and you know, we kick a Charlie Brown, you know, field goal that barely got over the goalpost from like 10 yards out to win the game. And then last year, I had no doubt in my mind he's going to drill that ball in the last game, you know, a year later. So I think that's going to represent the growth of Drew. I really do. And just as a person, you know, and this stuff all goes together in my opinion. He was so young when he showed up here. I mean, really young, physically and kind of emotionally. You know, he's just a high school guy. So where he is now compared to there, it's just night and day. And he's confident, but it's not a false bravado. It's because he's earned it. He works hard. He's just immaculate with his preparation, and that's how you typically guys perform well, is because they do all that hard work when they're supposed to, and you know, and that he's done that. So again, representative of what you hope a guy is going to be as a college football player, and he's done a great job. And it is nice to have an experienced kicker. That is nice, really nice.
Hi, Kirk. On your right, Jack Leader with Case here. It's the first time in a while you haven't had a whole Big Ten linebacker returning. So on this Monday morning quarterbacking, I see Harold, Rexroth, and Shire, those seniors. First off, do you see those 3 seniors as the potential starters in week 1? And if so, what have they done to kind of encourage you as they're stepping into some brand new roles and some really big shoes to fill?
Yeah, so just like Higgins had big shoes and Nick did when they got here, that's part of football if you have good players. I do see, I'm assuming tomorrow when the ones go out there, those 3 guys will be in their respective positions. But that competition's wide open right now, and the challenge is a little different for everybody. Shire's, you know, flashed at times. He's played great on special teams, but he's had some durability issues and dependability issues, injury-wise, which, you know, nobody can do anything about that, but it's hard to be a great player at any position, you know, especially linebacker, if you can't stay on the field. He's been out there, basically had you know, stubbed his toe a little bit early in spring for a day or 2, but he's been on the field ever since and doing really well. He's practicing at a high level. And, you know, I think Harold's done the same thing. He's really done a good job. Jackson's doing a great job. But we've got some guys behind him that are really pressing and pushing, and you know, again, I know Pat's in the room here somewhere, I referenced that 08 where Pat ended up starting in October, maybe it was late September, but, and Ricky Stanzi the same way, and that's always in the back of your mind, you just never know who's gonna emerge, and I think, you know, several positions along the board as we start, obviously August is gonna help us determine things, but what really matters is what we do when the games start playing and how guys are playing there, so we'll keep an open mind, just keep playing guys, and what they do on special teams is important, like we, you know, because we've seen too many pictures of guys playing good special teams and then shifting into their respective positions and that carrying over, so, but yeah, all those guys have come down that same path, they've done a good job on special teams, and anxious to see how it plays out. It's probably one of the biggest positions of intrigue, if you will.
Scott, on the back right.
Hey Coach, Scott Rice from KCCI, great to see you. Speaking of special teams, Caden Weechen obviously showed what he could do last year. Do you see your offense utilizing him more on offense, or is that a situation where you want to protect him?
Yeah, I was described, no, we're not trying to protect anybody, we're the quarterbacks, but, yeah, so I mean, you know, just the description of him was like a couple of years ago, he went hard, we didn't know where he's going, mainly because he didn't know where he's going, and then, you know, evolved into a really good special teams performer, and there's, you know, at the start of last year, I don't mind telling you, I was a little, you know, curious and anxious and whatever, and then, boy, he just played great as a return guy. And our goal for him is to take that now and carry that over to offense, and I think he's on that road. You know, we'll see how it progresses. He's done good things in camp already, some good things in spring, but he's better now than he was in the spring. And, you know, the things that make him really good on as a return guy, obviously would tie into being a good receiver. He's fast, he's fearless, and it's just, you know, getting all the details down, and I think he's really working hard to do that. So, you know, we're hopeful that he'll be contributing a lot offensively.
Scott.
Scott Ackerman, with the Athletic. I wanted to ask you about Logan Jones. He's now, you know, a sixth-year guy, but when you brought him in as a defensive tackle, kind of put him on the Tyler Linderbaum plan. He was up and down early in his career, but he always seemed to have that skill set that was capable of doing it. At what point did it click for him to where his immense physical gifts that he's able to channel, and he can actually turn it into one of the best, if not the best center coming into the country this year?
Probably a month or two later than it should have, and I took ownership in that. It is like Linderbaum, except I didn't screw, you know, Tyler's deal up. We did it in December, got him over there, and he started practicing, so he basically got an extra spring practice at that position. I think that helped, you know, make him more game ready the next fall. And unfortunately, you know, we didn't make the move with Logan until spring. I think it was in January when he got back, but it just looked like we needed a little bit more help at that position, and you know, he was a logical guy, so I take, you know, that probably retarded his progress and growth. I don't know how many weeks, but you know, it didn't take him long to get the feel for it. He's really playing at a high level and practicing at a high level now. We got a couple of guys that are older, some of the 5th, 6th year guys that came back, and they're all really practicing well, and that's encouraging. You know, the guys up front are really setting the tempo for us.
Eric Sossman from KSN Denison. We have a young fella from the Carroll area, DJ Benami, and he had some good news last month. I think our listeners are going to hear about that.
Yeah.
Some of his progress.
So he actually got good news previous to that last month, but leaked out last month or whatever. We don't, like, you know, I don't have anybody jumped out on a cake or something and said, here's your scholarship. My flair for the dramatic's not so good, I think you guys know that. So, but you know, it's just like anything, you know, guys that work hard and are doing good things, you know, they're hopefully we can reward them in some way. And DJ, we really were so pleased that he chose to come here, because we really liked what we saw in high school. As you know, he wasn't a tight end there, but we thought he had a lot of the attributes of guys. In fact, I read an article, it's kind of entertaining somewhere, whatever you call those little boxes, you know, on your iPad. Like, you know, you go to Google something, there's all those little articles in there. There's one that caught my eye, but anyway, it was about tight ends. And the guy who wrote it, with all due respect, like, had no clue. He was talking about a guy we didn't recruit. And anyway, I don't know, I'm going on a rabbit hole here, but anyway. But he cited, okay, so we didn't recruit the guy, and the kid's a good kid, he's a good player. But we just didn't feel like, you know, he was a fit for us. But the ironic part was he decided that, you know, tight end U stuff. And some of the guys he cited were Kittle, Laporta, who am I leaving out? Hawkinson maybe, but, Hawkinson had a couple Big Ten offers. But, Kittle and Laporta, Kittle's going to Weber State and Laporta's going to Bowling Green. The point is, it's recruiting is individual for everybody, and it's not judging anybody else's judgment, but we thought we saw some traits in DJ that maybe were, and he's done nothing but just improve, and I don't know how ready he is to be a starter right now, but I could see him being a starter in the future here. He's worked hard, he's put weight on, good weight, he works extremely hard, is competitive, tries to block, which, some guys will or won't. That was the question on TJ. When TJ got here, well, we actually brought him to camp and made him try to block somebody. He was terrible, but at least he tried. So it was like, okay, this guy will learn it, and he did. So I'm not saying DJ's going to end up like TJ. Well, this is confusing. But anyway, but he's a really positive guy and a good guy in our room, and it's a good room of guys right now. So happy he's here, and we try to be fair with anybody that comes here in terms of reward them if they're moving up the charts. So that's always a good thing. That's a fun thing.
We talked a couple weeks ago about the cornerback competition, the guys that are in there. Can you just describe as a unit and as individuals since the start of camp what you've seen from them?
Yeah, they're all, you said cornerback, right?
Cornerback.
Outside guys, yeah, they're all doing well. Jalen's been limited a little bit to soft tissue. Like every camp, you got some guys with football type injuries. I skipped over the running back thing earlier, but kind of same discussion. I think we have a good pool of guys in both groups, and we'll certainly know more in about 3 weeks. But TJ, unfortunately, he had an injury, and we're lucky based on the way it looked, but it ended up being a bone-on-bone thing. So, he's got a bone bruise right now, which those are painful. It's probably going to be a week or two before he's back, but he was really doing well. Deshaun's doing a really nice job, and then Jalen's the next guy up. But it's giving these younger guys, Godfrey and Moda, a chance to work, and Shaheed joined us, Barrow. So, it just gives us a good chance to evaluate. But that's one that'll be ongoing, I'm sure. But the two older guys, TJ, till he got hurt 2 days ago, was doing really good. And same thing with Deshaun's playing well, too. So I think, as long as we keep improving, we'll end up okay there.
Squeeze it in 3 more, Ethan?
Ethan Butrick, Quad City Times. We hear about the 24-hour rule with your players a lot in a year where there's some big stuff out there for you personally. What's your 24-hour rule look like? How do you spend those 24 hours after a game?
Yeah, I think it's pretty simple, really. First thing, when I was in the NFL, it's probably why I couldn't go back to the NFL, but anyway, the head coach where I worked at least had to go see the owner after the game. So, all I really wanted to do was get my car and go home. That's all. It's simple, and it was that way as long as I've coached. When I was here in the 80s, if I was in a good mood, I would walk home through the parking lot. A friend of mine was always somewhere over in that corner, and I'd stop and have a beer with him, and then I'd walk right over to our house, took 10 minutes, 9 minutes, and I'd be on my couch. Life was good. If we lost, just kept going, no stopping, and no stopping to go for $200. So, that's kind of the model, and I worked for one guy that, I used to feel I was stopping in his office on the way out of the stadium, and he's putting on his tie and he had to go upstairs, and the owner was either, he'd typically been, having a few during the game, and so it was either the end of the world or the best thing in the world, and exactly what you don't want your players to do, that type of deal. And I was thinking to myself, man, I don't know if I could do that, because I got in my car, I went home. So that's what I do, I go home as fast as possible. It's a little tough when you're on the West Coast flying back through the night. It means you're home at 5:30 or whatever. I like to go home and try to get your mind off. That's impossible, but you process it, just like we tell the players. We come in, watch the tape, and you either feel really good or you feel bad. And but the biggest thing is learning from it on Sunday, and then you move on. And one good thing about practice Monday morning, we don't have time to, warn things too long, and we don't have time to celebrate. We got to get moving on to the next team. And if you don't do that, you really give up. You give up a lot of opportunity to have an edge.
Chris in the middle.
Chris Magna today. I want to ask about Jimmy Duncan, because you talked about O-line a little bit. What have you seen from him from his first year to now that led into the growth of getting the preseason All-American? And how do you see him kind of leading this O-line throughout this next season?
Yeah, first of all, Jennings, if you meet him personally, it's a good exposure. Just a really interesting guy. He could be on that beer commercial from 10 years ago. In fact, he'd be more eye-grabbing because of his, red-headed bullet. But, he's a highly intelligent guy, and, he hides it well sometimes. So it's interesting that way. He'll play games with you, but, man, I'll tell you, this guy works. And, talking about some of the other positions and certainly the offensive line, we had the group that he came in with, it was during the COVID period. Just some really unusual stories, and it was a bunch of them. And that you wonder about scoring points. It's hard to score points when you can't block. So that's part of it. But anyway, to his credit, he had some lower leg injuries that were impeding his progress and development, and offensive line's all about development. So, he's playing catch up that way, and he's just done a really nice job the last 2 years. Works like crazy, very coachable. He's got tremendous pride in the, guys that, obviously he's big and strong, but, and plays with good effort. But guys that play with effort and that have pride and have mental toughness, they have a chance to really become, as good as they can become. And I think, Jenny's isn't there yet. He's got things he's working on right now, and he's gotten better in 8 practices. He's improved, I think, immensely in certain parts. And, that's what you want to see with your older guys. They're working just as hard as any young guy trying to figure out what they're doing. So that's really, he's a joy to coach. He's a lot of fun. Most of our guys are. They're just good guys to coach.
Last question in the back, Trey.
Hey, Kirk, all the way back here, turn around field at level 5. When it comes to the score points, when it comes to the total offense, the improvement from 23 to 24 is drastically high. Why don't we see another big jump offensively in 25?
I don't mean to, I went off on too big of a tangent, but first of all, the objective is to win. That's really all we care about. But the best way to win is, points scored and points against. So that's where your focus is. But, every year is an adventure. Every team is an adventure. Every things happen during the course of the season too sometimes. And so you just deal with reality and try to find a way to get to the finish line. And I think we've done a pretty good job of that over the years, and we've, 26 years here, you're going to have ups and downs, you're going to have challenges. We're not, and I'll say this, we're not Ohio State. We never have been, we never will be. It might, make fans upset or whatever, but history shows that. So we got to be comfortable with who we are and how we're going to be successful. And, if we have injuries in a certain area, then we're going to have to figure out a way to, to compensate or, get it done. Our most explosive offensive team in 26 years was 0-2, and we weren't exactly knocking it out defensively early, but the defense caught up, and defense is what we built this thing on, and then we'll go off of that. And I say this program 26 years ago, and I learned that from my predecessor and other great coaches that I've had a chance to work with or watch. So it starts there. I just think defense travels well, and if you want to be a consistent winner, you better emphasize it. But we're trying to score points too, and whatever. So you do the best with what you can. And as I said a year ago, again, 26 years here, +9. When our line plays good, our quarterback plays good, that's a good start. We got a chance. And last year, we had the line play. We had all kinds of ups and downs at quarterback. But we had a running back who nobody was talking about exactly at this time last year, and boom, blew up and just played great. And so that's kind of the history of our program too. Somebody's got to step up and get things done, because you're always going to lose good players. And but the bottom line is find a way to the finish line. And we've done a pretty good job of that the last 5 years, last 10 years. If you look at us relative to the other 17 teams in our conference, we're proud of where we're at. We'd like to improve it, but we're going to just try to find a way. A little bit of luck, I think things are coming together offensively a little bit, and but who knows? Tidal wave hits or whatever, and all of a sudden, you just never know what it's going to be. So you got to be prepared to, do what's best each and every week with the guys that can get to the game and play. But yeah, it's exciting right now, just because I think we have a chance to have a little bit more balanced offensive football team than we've had over the last several years, really probably going back to 20. So that's good. It's always kind of funny, the 21 season, I think we won 10 games there. And I think our points per game there was exactly the same as 09. Pretty darn close if it wasn't, right? And Pat, we were good guys back in 09, right? In 21, we were all like bums, So it's funny how, I guess I do too much. I'm not trying to be a jag-off, but I study that stuff, right? It's just so. But winning the bowl game helps too, and we didn't do that in 21. And we had a chance. We had a chance, but we weren't quite good enough. And yeah, you gotta get over that hump, you know, and the 09 team did that, so relatively the same statistics, so, bottom line is just, you know, we gotta figure out a way to win each and every week, and that's gonna be our goal, our puzzle, and, you know, let the games begin, but luckily we got 3 weeks here still to figure some things out, so, appreciate it, we'll see you guys over there, thank you.